Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 490, Meeple Nation August 2023 News.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
The Meeple Nation podcast is sponsored by Game Toppers LLC. Make every game night epic, enhance every game, improve every table. Go check out GameToppersLLC.com. They make fantastic products to give you a premium game space and all the components and little accessories to go with it at a fraction of the cost of what you would pay to get a premier gaming table. So please go check out GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
And I'm Douglas Stewart.
Wow, it's just you and I.
It's a short list.
You and I, or no, you and me and something. There's a song there.
Oh, there's a number of them.
Two of us.
Yeah. I can't tell if were we just the ones who drew the short straws tonight? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, Dave has his grandkids with him, so I guess family's more important than us.
Ugh.
Logan wasn't feeling well, and then Andy had something wrong with his face, and so he's trying to fix that.
Oh, yeah.
So he had some surgery
with a needle and thread.
Yeah, with a needle and thread. Yeah. So hopefully they'll make his mouth a little bit bigger and easier for him to smile.
I don't think that was on the docket, but
so I checked in with him. So he had his tonsils out, right, and some nasal reconstruction surgery and deviated septum fixed. Not to get too much involved into Andy's life. He just had his surgery today, and so I checked on him and said, "Is there anything that you need? And if you tell me nothing, then I guess I just have to make fun of your small mouth." Then I was like, wait a minute, how did the doctor get all their tools into such a small mouth? And he's like, they had to have pried it open because my jaw hurts too.
Oh, I'm sure that was a challenge for them. That's hilarious, actually. That's awesome. But it is just the two of us at the table tonight.
Good times indeed. Check out our webpage, meeplenation.com. We have links to our blogs. We have links to our photos from our social platforms. We have links to all of our past episodes. We have bios. And as always, you can email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. And there's also a link there for our Patreons. We love our patrons who support the podcast financially and help us keep doing what we're doing and help us make some improvements. We enjoy doing the podcast, and at this point, we actually have some bonus material that we have released. Those patrons who sponsor us at the citizen level now have the opportunity to get our early access to our bonus episodes. And as a treat, everybody earlier this week got our first bonus episode. It was released to the wild, but those who are at our citizen level got that material 2 weeks ago. And also, we're looking to consider doing other bonus material as it comes up, and we're trying to brainstorm, but we're going to see how this goes. And we're also doing some formatting changes to each episode. In the past, we saved our highlights for just the news episode, and when that happens, we tend to talk about nothing but highlights.
It's just a highlights episode. It's not news.
Yeah. And so we were feeling bad that there wasn't any news in the news. We're changing that. So now, from now on, every episode, we're going to have a section that is dedicated to highlights for games that we've played over the last couple of weeks. And then for our news episode, we're going to include, wait for it, news.
Ooh, shocker.
Yeah, we're going to talk about new game announcements, new games that are found in the wild, and Doug does a really good job of finding out some crowdfunding that is coming up. I tend to stay away from the crowdfunding because I have issues, and I think Doug does too, but he's...
No, never. What are you talking about, Nathan?
Maybe he's accepted them more than I have, or maybe I'm just in plain denial, but we're trying to make sure that the news is exactly that.
Yeah, we feel like it needs to be a more prominent part of our news episodes. So, yeah, for sure. But we will still have some highlights.
Yeah.
So that'll be a part of the podcast moving forward. So every episode you can count on us talking about some of our highlights.
Yeah, because highlights are important to us. That's why it kind of ate up all the news. And so now this is an opportunity to each week spread our love for what we're playing each week.
And it's great because it's a little more fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're a little more on our minds.
Yeah. We're not saving something for 5 weeks and trying to remember it all and write it all down. But that's why I track my games.
Yep.
Having the experience fresh on the mind is going to be awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. We also had some feedback that we wanted to get to because we felt like this would lead into a really cool conversation. So this question comes from one of our patrons, Salvatore. He said, Meeple Nation, I'm a big fan of two-player games. Even before COVID, which caused an increased interest in solo gaming, I found the dynamics of two-player games fascinating. As I was playing Stellar from 2020 with my wife last night, I realized that this game was easily scalable to multiplayer by simply doubling the deck. And you can even play with 4 players, albeit doubling the playtime from 30 to 60 minutes. Some of the most beloved two-player games, because of their structure, are not scalable, such as Seven Wonders Duel. My question to Meeple Nation is, can any of you think of any other two-player board games that are easily scalable to higher player counts, and would you ever consider doing it? The answer is a resounding yes. In fact, we have some thoughts on this particular subject. And I'm going to start us off because I'm going to throw out one that I know Nathan has a lot of passion for. This is Star Wars, the deck building game.
In fact, I just played this with my daughter last night.
Yeah.
2 games.
It's wonderful. It's a great game. It is designed for 2 players, but they do have a 2 versus 2 multiplayer mode for this game, but it does require 2 copies. So this is exactly what you're talking about. You add another copy of the game in, and suddenly the game goes from being a 2-player game to a 4-player game.
That's exciting. I'll have to actually look into that because I very much enjoy this game. I enjoy playing it all the time. I just have to make sure I find matching sleeves. I have some pretty cool sleeves for my set.
I got the same one. So actually, if we combined our sets, that would work, or we could do that flawlessly. I did think it was really interesting. So if you go to the rule book for this, it tells you that it's right at the end of the rule book. It says, hey, this is possible. You can combine copies. You can do 2v2. So this was baked into the cake to begin with. But then they say, for the rules for this game, go visit the website. and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why not just add a little leaf to the rule book and just show us right here? Because that's all it is. It's like a page of information. So I did think that was kind of a weird way of rolling that out. Like, why not just put that in the rule book, when they hit print? But yeah.
It's all about generating traffic to their website.
Yeah, and that could be. But I would love to try that sometime.
Yeah. As much as we're excited about this, it is kind of still tough to find a ton of those 2-player games where you can do it. I don't have a ton of just 2-player games, but I have found that I very much enjoy playing a lot of the games I have 2 players. And I play a ton of games on BGA with just my wife and myself. And in fact, I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of the current 25 games that we're playing. And then I have a list of 35 games that I need to slowly integrate into our routine.
Nathan is a man with a plan.
And it is a plan. And she has caught on. And
I'm sure she has.
Yeah. And so anytime I teach her a new game, it's or we're gonna be playing this online now, aren't we? Or I don't need to play this one online. And there's actually been some like Splendor Duel, which is a game that she really enjoys, which would be fun to play online, but it is currently not part of the BGA library, which BGA has a ton of games and they keep adding content, which is great. I'm a big fan of BGA. Cheryl and I, in fact, everybody, Doug, you and I play games, and we all play them turn-based games. So you take a turn, and then when the other person takes a turn, you get a notification, and you know it's your turn. So currently, looking at it today, just before we sat down, before Doug got here, I currently have 53 games online that I'm playing.
That's amazing. I think somewhere between 15 and 20 of those, I think, are with me.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. So you've got games going with Cheryl and with everyone, with the world.
Yep. Yeah. It's good times. So I definitely would suggest playing a lot of those games 2 players. But going back to Salvatore's question, even thinking about doing these 2-player games, the whole reason that my group began to get together was all based on customizable card games. We played Star Wars, Star Trek, and even Lord of the Rings when that came out. But our whole group began in the roots of the Star Wars customizable card game. But I think as far as other games that are out there, I mean, my head always just kind of goes to some of those bigger games like X-Wing Miniatures. I think it's out on I don't know if it's on its 3rd edition or still in its 2nd edition. That is a game that you can include extra people, but some of these games start to eat up a lot of real estate. Like Star Wars X-Wing Miniatures takes up a lot of real estate on your table. Heroscape, Star Wars Legion, all these can handle it well. But one of the new games that I got, Memoir 44.
Right. Not a new game, but new to you.
Yes. I better correct that. Yeah, new to me, which Doug, you and I have played a couple of times, and we're playing an implementation on BGA as well.
Correct. Yep.
Which is not as good as playing it live, I feel.
No, you lose some things. And I do like BGA, and I do like the turn-based thing because it's kind of casual, but it interrupts your turn a lot because the other player has to react and stuff. So the BGA implementation is a little, it's not a bad implementation. It just doesn't work as well.
Yeah. I mean, if it was something that you were playing live with somebody, very much in league with that implementation works well for playing together live. But when you're doing the turn-based, Memoir 44, a little bit lacking, but still good. Still good implementation. Memoir 44 is a great game, and you buy 2 copies and you can expand that, and you can actually play. There's rules on their website as well that you can play.
It's up to 4v4, right? If you've got 4 copies of the game, you could play 4v4. So that's another one. Again, going back to Salvador's question, what games can you just add, another copy to add players? And that's a really great one.
Yeah.
Definitely fits into that category. And I like that it's like, well, you add a copy, you can go to 2v2, add 2 more copies, you go 3v3, and then all the way up to 4 copies of the game. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it's such a great game too. I need to find some more copies because I would very much like to try that.
No, that would be really fun. Or just take it to a convention. We'll go grab the convention copy and at least try like a 2v2 just to see if it's any good and if that sort of rule set holds up.
Yeah.
No, that'd be great. I wanted to throw out a couple for you, Salvatore, here real quick. 2 games that are really, they're designed and marketed as 2-player experiences. They're definitely best at 2-player, but if you've got the components, the sets to play both of these games, if you add more, you can definitely go up to 3 and 4 players. That is the Unmatched system of games and Dice Throne. So with Unmatched, a lot of the maps that they have actually are built for 3 and 4 players. They even have the little 3 and 4 marker for where those players would start on the map. So again, built into the cake, so to speak, it is designed. It is not ideal. I still feel like it is way better as a 2-player experience. I don't even really feel like it's super fair to call it a 3 or 4 player game, but you can do that if you've got the right box and you can mix and match those like just so well. Also, both of them have a really cool, like kind of 3-player King of the Hill or Last Man Standing version of the game. And then if we bring up Dice Throne, don't sit on Dice Throne Adventures. That is a fantastic game. And that lets you take up to 4 people. So that'll be 1 to 4 players that can just grab any one of the characters and you can take that through a whole cooperative dungeon crawl. So what's normally a 2-player game turns into a 1 to 4 player co-op. And it's awesome. Like we've played it. It's fantastic. It works really well. Love Dice Throne Adventures. That's a really good one.
I'm going to jump in just real quick. We've talked in the past, but I have my copy of Catapult Feud, which is a 2-player game. But I know Andy has picked his up and he's doubled it so that he can do teams. So it's 2v2 on that and set it up. And I know he recently had an activity where he had a bunch of adults that weren't excited to play some games while the kids were playing games on the other table, and Catapult Feud was going on, and it was
suddenly all the adults were like, "Oh, what's this game? Yep, we're in."
Yeah, yeah,
this is awesome.
Brings out the inner child for sure.
The inner 12-year-old comes right out.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a really good one. And then I'll just throw out really quick, also Magic the Gathering. Okay, this is a classic, and at this point they have tons of ways to play, but they do have some really good 3 and 4 player rules, and you can always do tournaments, right? So if you've got like a draft night, everybody drafts, they build their deck, and then you can go, 2 people square off while the other 2 square off, and then you can have the winners face out. You can do kind of a tournament bracket. Also, any of these 2-player games can be made fun with just a couple copies. Even if they don't mix, you can do tournaments, and that's really fun. We've done that before. We have had great success having tournaments in the past. I had a whole 2-player tournament It was clear back. It was what was it? Tuesday, the 22nd of 2022. And we met at like 7:22 or something like that in the evening or whatever, and had like a 2-player game party, right? And so that's what we did. We did tournaments, and it was great. So that's another thing you can do is pick up a couple copies and then do tournaments.
Yeah. And you bring that up, and I was actually going to bring this up too. My wife, she has one of her employees is a board gamer. And so he's always talking to her. Oh, have you heard this game? And have you played this game? And so he was really excited. He just got his copy of Great Western Trails New Zealand. He was talking to her all excited about how he's getting ready to go home when he and his wife were going to break this out and start herding sheep. And then, and then today he invited her and myself. They're having an event where it's all it's a 2-player game night. We've been invited to attend this, and I was pretty excited. Like, yeah, that sounds great. The only conflict is our friend James, his daughter's getting married, and it's on the same night as her wedding shower. So I'm going to drop Cheryl off and then wait in the car. And then as soon as she's done, we're gonna bolt and go do something fun. Not that the wedding shower isn't fun, but I'm not invited to that. So
yeah, so bolt and go do something fun.
Yeah,
100%. I will say that I think, this is speaking from experience. I think that the best tournament games are the ones that tend to be a little shorter.
For sure.
So, you're thinking like Lost Cities, you're thinking Jaipur, maybe Radlands, some of the shorter 2-player games I think would be good. But yeah, tournaments are awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about Jaipur. Doug, you and I are in my first, I didn't mean to invite you to 2 games.
No, it's all good.
But we're in the middle of my first 2 games of Jaipur.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to play this. I think I'm liking how simple it is and looking forward to teaching my wife and getting her to play that on PGA as well.
Yeah, Jaipur is great. It's a classic at this point. So, yep, love Jaipur.
So Salvatore, hopefully that answers some of your questions. We have some suggestions in there. We have a couple of games, and we have a couple of game ideas, and even some game nights that you could plan around. So we're very grateful for the question. Thank you. And it was a great opportunity to discuss both off air and on air.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, moving on, let's talk about some of our highlights from this last week. Nathan, what have you been playing? And I'm excited about yours.
Well, this is actually something I haven't played yet, but I'm really excited about this. Some neighbors found out that I play games. It's always kind of fun to see the expression on people's face when, oh yeah, I play board games. And then I got, I currently in my collection have over 1,200 games, and their eyes kind of like glaze over and like, are you serious, Clark? And just this whole kind of befuddled experience to them that you would have so many board games. And so these people are actually moving to my old neighborhood. So they're leaving my current neighborhood and going to my old neighborhood. So this neighbor, Alex Jolly, comes up to me and says, hey, I have this old board game we have in the house that we're not quite sure what to do with. And do you want it? I've taken some in the past, and I've actually had one neighbor from the old neighborhood that said, hey, I got a bunch of these games. Do you want them? And you're always kind of hesitant. And he brought over like 20 games, and these were phenomenal games. Some of them which were Great Western Trail. This is one where the guy has these, he made these
custom made the player markers. Yeah.
Cowboys, yep, out of clay.
Cowboys.
And so, I got like 20, 25 games from this guy that were all exceptional games. And then sometimes you get some games and you're like, yeah, what's that? What's that? Sure. That's nice. Thanks. But this one, well, when she dropped it off to me, I was really excited because this is not a game I'm super excited to play, but the fact that this game has history. This is a Parker Brothers game from 1966.
1966.
So older than all of us here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
By quite a bit. And the game is called Hey Pa, There's a Goat on the Roof. And this box is, it's like 3 by 3.5 square. It's a huge box.
It is. I'm looking at it on the table over there. It's a massive box, and it's just white. It doesn't have anything on it. There's really nothing at all other than the name of the game.
Yep. And there is on the front cover, there is kind of a picture of it. It's a It's an artist rendition of a farmyard, and then you pull it off, and you look at a board kind of like Candyland. It has a little spinner in there, and you're going to move your goats along there. Move your goats, and you're going to try to collect tin cans and move your goats around to score on the board. Simple spin and move. And
so exciting.
So I looked this up on BGG to try to get a little bit of information, and the game doesn't even have a designer listed, right? So this is back when Parker Brothers just hid people in the dungeon and kick us out of game.
Yep.
You get no credit. And
well, it was probably somebody who was designing toys and other things for them at the same time. It weren't even board game designers, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. And this box is equivalent. I mean, I think the box is bigger than a box of Gloomhaven. It's not nearly as heavy, but it's as far as holding this game, it's big box.
I wish people could kind of look down inside of it, because it actually has like a plastic farmhouse and little farm. It like kind of creates like a farmyard. There's actual 3D components and stuff.
Yep.
And all of them very, very much look like they are from the 1960s.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like
great.
When I first looked into it, I was reminiscing of the old Little People.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the old barn that they had, and very simple, but it had 1960s all over it. The game is missing some pieces. It's missing a couple of goats, and it's missing the instructions. But
so you've got some homework and research to do a little bit.
Yeah, but just still, I mean, looking at this game, it is really, really cool. It's like the opportunity to go to kind of like a museum and be let behind the velvet cord and be able to pick up and look at the artifacts.
Yeah.
And you flip over the box on the backside, where you would expect to find a couple of rule highlights, this, that, or anything. The back is completely blank. Just blank.
It's just a box.
Yeah. And you think like today, I mean, that's just wasted information space, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this is a game that you expect to pick up and look at, and it's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm just really excited to have a piece of history. Am I going to play this game? I would like to. I would like to try it at least once. It's a 2 to 6 player game. Doesn't even tell you how long it's going to be. It's a fun little simple game, but it's a piece of history that I'm pretty excited to have. I'll put it right next to my electronic football game. That's the one where you have the vibrating table, right? You line up your players, put the football in one person's hand, and turn on the table, and as the table vibrates, your players move across. And still straight out of the late 70s, early 60s. This game is going to just go right there next to that piece of history.
Yeah, it's such a great reminder that the world was a different place.
Yeah.
55, 56, 7 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So that's my highlight, a game that I haven't played, but I'm excited to own. Hey, Pa, there's a goat on the roof.
That's awesome. Well, the game that I wanted to talk about is one that I have played numerous times, in fact.
That's a novel idea.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? This is a little game called Bird Watcher. My wife is like, she's big into birds. She's a birder. She, goes on hikes. She likes to, she uses the little app. She tries to collect lifers, all this stuff. And she likes Wingspan. Like, it's a good game. She will play it. It's definitely not beyond her skill or anything like that. She's very capable of playing it, but it's not necessarily her favorite game, and it's a little long. But she loves stuff like that. And her love of birding and of nature really, it informs the type of games that she likes. And so I had gotten a gift card to a local friendly game store, right? And so I was down there and I was just perusing and stuff, and I saw this game, and I was thinking, okay, this looks interesting. This looks like one she would be interested in, but is it any good? So I pulled out my phone, did a little, preliminary research or whatever on it, and it seemed to be fairly well rated and fairly well liked, and seemed to be fairly lightweight and all this stuff. So I went ahead and picked it up. I brought it home. It went on the shelf of shame, and it sat in shrink for several months, probably 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I have no games on my shelf of shame. So
yeah. Oh, none.
It's shame on you. Okay, I have like 200 games on my shelf of shame.
Yes, I'm looking at many of them, in fact. But it sat, and then this last week we had a lazy Sunday afternoon, and I thought, hey, we want to play games. Lydia had mentioned like, hey, I'd like to play a game. Let's try something new, that kind of thing. So I went and grabbed it. I learned the rules. We set it up and started playing. And the first thing Lydia told me when we had finished the first game, and I beat her, it wasn't by a lot, but I did win that game. The very first thing she said to me was, I want to play that again right now.
That's awesome.
And that's like, the hook is like, is in at that point, right? But this is a great game. I put this in the hidden gem category. This is a game that more people need to check out. It really is. This is one that I think, it didn't generate a lot of buzz. I haven't really heard a lot about it. I don't think it's really on anyone's radar, to be totally honest. And it needs to be, because this is a great little game. Basically, what it is you have a big stack of bird cards, and some of them come out into the jungle. And then you've got a little clearing area, and those are public areas. And then you each have your own personal tree. And so what you're trying to do is call birds to your tree and snap a picture of them. But when you take a picture, your flash and your camera noise or whatever, it scares one of the birds off. So you've got to make a decision about, okay, what birds am I going to call to my tree? Then which ones am I going to photograph, and which ones am I going to scare away? The ones that get scared away go back to the clearing where they can be called back later. But through the course of the game, you're just trying to build out what's called your photo journal, which is a little place underneath your tree where you just, in sort of timeline fashion, as you take pictures, you're laying those birds out, and you're trying to collect birds that have a certain amount of points on their own. There's various ways to score. And then it has this really cool deck of cards that gets laid out in what's called the Academy. And these are like papers you can publish, essentially, right, on the things that you've discovered. And so you can take some of those and put them into your photo journal as well. And those will create scoring combos and synergies with the other things that you have. So it's pretty simple. You're just trying to build out this lineup of cards that scores based on what birds you have in it, what sets you've collected, and what papers you've published. And it really is fantastic. It's also worth noting that the art in this game is like out of this world good. It's amazing. It's some of the best sort of nature and animal art that I've ever seen in a board game. It's really that I've ever seen, period. It's wonderful, wonderful art. So super fun. I'll throw out this little caveat that we played it as a 2-player game. It will play up to 5, and I don't know that it should play up to 5. I think as a 2 or a 3-player game, this is going to be excellent, but the board state changes between people's turns. And so when it becomes your turn, you have to kind of reevaluate a little bit. You know how some games do that, where you have a hard time pre-planning what you're going to do because by the time it gets to you, it's changed. And that was true even in a 2-player game. And so, even though turns are relatively quick, if I had to wait for 2 or 3 other people, 4 other people even, to take a turn, because this will go up to 5 players, if I had to wait for them to take a turn before it got back to me,
take away from the game.
I think it would take away from some of the enjoyment of the game, because this was enjoyable because it was kind of snappy and fun and back and forth and a lot of that. Also, at a lower player count, you can put more cards into your photo journal. So there's even more in terms of scoring potential combos, different like synergies you can get, that kind of thing. So I would recommend it at a lower player count, but this is an awesome game that everyone should go check out.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it, and I think Cheryl would like it. And I was hoping that maybe we could get together and do a 4-player of it, but maybe it sounds like I just need to borrow it from you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be willing to try it at 4. I'd at least try it.
Yeah,
but I do think that the lower player count was some of the enjoyability of the game.
That is awesome. 2 great games, 2 great experiences, and I'm excited to try Birdwatcher, and I'm also excited to try Hey Pop, There's a Goat on the Roof. I just like saying the name.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
At this point, let's talk about some news. I mean, we talked about talking about news, so let's talk about.
Are we going to do it? Are we really going to do it? Is this going to happen?
It's going to happen. So there's a new game out from Plaid Hat, and this is a Crossroads game. And this is Freelancers, a Crossroads game. And so you think of Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter is a Crossroads game where you have to make decisions, right? You have to, at the end of your turn, you're going to draw a card, and this card is going to make you make a decision, and that decision is going to somehow affect the game. So with Freelancers, let me give a little brief description. Congratulations, humanity is dead. The bad news is that all that is left behind is their garbage and a broken economy. That's why we need freelancers. Freelancers like you who are ready to take any job, no matter how loathsome. As a freelancer, you will delve into the ruins, brave the wilds, and slay the hordes of hideous creatures that litter the dark, forgotten corners of the world. All so you can gather loot, return home, ready to blow it all and start all over again the next day. It's a lousy gig, so it's perfect for the likes of you. This game, the description, it kind of draws me in.
Yeah, it's catchy. I like it.
That whole kind of post-apocalyptic, I mean, this isn't post-apocalyptic, this is post-humanity, right? Because they're saying, congratulations, humanity is dead. But just that whole discovery of life after we ruined it here. So it's a 3 to 7 player game. Those numbers always kind of make me a little bit worried. I do like that there are games out there that provide that higher player count, but at what cost? So that has me a little bit nervous, but it's a 90 to 180 minutes. And that 180 minutes has me a little bit nervous too, because I'm worried about with 7 people that you're going to tune out when your turn takes so long, or when it takes too long for your turn to come back to you. So this game, it's a crossroads game. It's very similar to Dead of Winter, Gen 7, both of those Plat Hat games that are in that same vein.
Forgotten Waters, yeah. So this could be something to keep on your radar, and that's Freelancers, a Crossroad game. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that one. Another game that I'm looking forward to that just got announced, Horrified Greek Monsters. So for fans of the Horrified series, which includes the Universal Monsters and the American Monsters games, we now have the Greek Monsters.
So what are the Greek monsters?
Well, let me just tell you. Medusa.
Okay.
Cerberus, the Chimera, the Minotaur, the Siren, and the Basilisk. So all 6 of those are included in Greek Monsters. So Pandora's box has been opened, and Greece's most notorious monsters have escaped. It's kind of the premise. I'm really looking forward to this. I very, very much enjoy the Horrified series of games. Now, we've talked about this before on the podcast, and both you and Logan, I don't know that anybody else has played them, but I know you and Logan played them, and you were really cool on these games. Like these did not win you over.
A little flat. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I was revisiting our conversation about that because we actually talked about it on one of the podcasts. I am 95. I'm 95% certain that you guys were not playing it correctly. Because when we talked about all the little mini games that it asked you to do, both you and Logan were like, yeah, we don't remember doing anything like that.
It has been a long time, but
yeah.
And there's great possibility that it could be played wrong. It could have been played wrong.
No, I thoroughly enjoy these games. I am more partial to the Universal Monsters version of this over the American Monsters version, but I'm really excited about adding Greek Monsters to the shelf. This is one I'm really looking forward to, and I think this will be really good.
I would very much like to try it again. Because, yeah, if you're talking about something that I totally missed out on a game, that's I feel like I ripped myself off.
Yeah, because it really is pretty good, and it's challenging. I mean, I've played this a number of times, and it's definitely kicked our rear ends on a number of occasions. So yeah. It's good. It's challenged, and I think a lot of fun. And really, it's the thematics. And I think that's why I'm more partial to the Universal Monsters version, is because thematically, man, those monsters just come through in amazing ways, right?
And so that's like Frankenstein, the Wolfman.
Yeah. And so so for example, like with Frankenstein, he comes out with the Bride of Frankenstein. So
I guess we should say Frankenstein's monster for those who are going to get after us with their rules.
That's very true. So my apologies. It is Frankenstein's monster. So when Frankenstein's monster comes out, you also have the Bride of Frankenstein. And they have this whole mechanic where you're trying to keep them apart until they've gained their humanity, until they're capable of love. And then you've got to bring them together. And I just love that. One of them, you've got to actually take a boat and go explore its cave, right? You've got to, get all the stakes that you need to take out Dracula's coffins and eventually, pierce him through the heart. I just love it thematically. So I'm hoping that they can do the same thing with this Greek Monsters version, because if they can capture that same sort of essence, that thematic essence, it's lightning in a bottle. It's awesome. It's really good.
Well, your excitement for it has me excited. I'm very much looking forward to giving it a try.
Very cool.
And I very much like the whole Greek mythology monsters.
Me too. Yep, absolutely.
It's a wild frontier out there in Wild Tiled West. Got to add a little bit of that Wild Tiled West. Andy needs to be here for that.
Yeehaw. Yeah. Welcome to the Meeple Nation podcast. He does that without even trying.
I know.
It's default.
It's almost like a Sean Connery accent.
I hope the surgery didn't remove that from him.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope not too. Yeah, hope not. Yeah. I hope it's still there. So it's Wild Frontier out there in the wild tiled west. Only the canniest critters will have what it takes to claim it. You're going to draft tiles to build new towns across the prairie. It is kind of tough to not throw in that Western accent.
Why hold back?
Yeah.
Just let it go.
And help the settlement grow. Defend your citizens against those no good, rotten outlaws. Strike it rich with the mines and risk it all at the card table. The West is wilder than ever, and it'll take a clever strategy and a bit of luck to come out on top. Saddle up and ride off to the wild, tiled West. The theme of this, kind of didn't really intrigue me. I enjoyed reading it for sure, but as I got looking into this game has some pretty cool highlights that have put it on my radar, and very much looking forward to playing this. So it's a 1 to 5 player game, 45 to 90 minutes. It's a polyomino game. Everybody's going to have boards. These boards are going to be a little bit different. They're double-sided, so one side's going to have advanced, but they're all different, so should hopefully have a ton of replayability there. The game is played over 4 years, and during each year, you're going to draft tiles. Whomever has the least amount of bandits that are visible on their board at the end of the year are going to gain points, and whoever has the most bandits are going to lose points. So the catch is, and this is what excites me, is when you're drafting tiles, you're going to roll 5 dice. You're going to roll 2 blue D8s and 3 green D20s. And then these are going to go onto kind of the market board. And the blue D8s are going to be river tiles that you can buy. So the river tiles, you're going to put the D8, and that will indicate which column that you can pull river tiles out of. And that column will include either 3 or 2 tiles. And then you can skip one of those if you want, or to go deeper down into the column or higher up on the column, depending what side of the board you're on, to get one that's going to be more applicable to you and to what you're trying to do with your strategy. However, when you are collecting the other tiles with the D20, they're going to be placed on their spot on the board, and you have to claim the closest to the end, whether it's on the left end or the right end, depending on which side of the board the die is placed. And there's 2 tiles that are stacked up there. And so one person can take the first one, and then the next person has to take the next one. The availability of tiles that are out there is great, but you're limited to what you can buy, all dependent on what is rolled by these dice. This mechanic intrigues me considerably. I'm very excited about it. The game looks all sorts of cool. Instead of just being a plain, simple polyomino game, this has some pizzazz. Is that the right word?
Yeah, some panache.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be a great game. And that's Wild Tiled West. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, partner. That's fantastic. I would like to just make quick mention that my favorite game is getting an expansion.
Arkham Horror?
Yes.
The card game?
Yes, 100%. They just announced what will be the 9th campaign expansion for Arkham Horror. This is Arkham Horror: The Feast of Hemlock Vale. And it looks really intriguing. Very cool theme, very cool idea. And it sounds like it's going to have kind of they're going to play with the campaign structure just a little bit, which makes me nervous because they did that with the Scarlet Keys, and I don't think it turned out quite as well as I would have liked. But this seems really intriguing, and it's a little more tight than Scarlet Keys as far as that goes. But it kind of gives you the opportunity to choose which adventures or which missions you want to take kind of in different orders. And so there's a little bit more of a choose your own adventure feel to this. So 9th campaign expansion for Arkham Horror. This game's still going strong, and I hope will for many, many more years. This makes it the 10th campaign for Arkham Horror because the core box has the Night of the Zealot campaign. So can't wait.
Yeah, every time you talk about Arkham Horror, I just have culling regrets left and right.
Well, you're going to have to get over it because I'm not stopping talking about it.
I know. The thing is, I just need to play it again, right?
For sure.
It's all coming down to creating a deck out of cards that I used to own. And I always feel bad about trying to use somebody else's cards to generate a deck.
Sure. But I don't mind at all. That's the fun of it for me. And I've got multiple decks. I've got a whole box full of people's decks, and I've got tons of cards. I've got enough for everyone to deck build with.
It is such a great game. That sounds awesome. I'm way excited for you because that is a great game.
Can't wait.
Another game that's coming out that I'm excited about. This is a game called After Us. The year 2083, humankind has died out decades ago. So 2083, that's our near future somewhat.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll make it to that age.
Yeah. As time went by, nature reclaimed the land all over. In this resurgent world, apes have kept evolving. They have been gathering in tribes, growing, mastering human items, and advancing their quest for knowledge. As the leaders of such a tribe, you will need to guide it towards a collective intelligence. So when I was first reading this, and the description is After Us is a deck building game and resource management game featuring an original and intuitive combo system. Kind of phase out, because deck building, I very much enjoyed deck building games, but as a mechanic, it just kind of, it's more of the same. And as long as the theme's there, I'm sold. I'm very invested in most deck building games, but this game takes that deck building to a different level, brings in a whole new twist that I am looking forward to. So on your turn, you're going to draw 4 cards and you're going to line them up in front of you. And then how you line them up determines what you're going to get. So on most of the cards, you're going to have half of a box on one side of the card, and then that box will need to be completed with the other half on the next card. And so when you're laying out 4 cards, you're obviously not going to be able to complete most of the boxes on the first card and the last card. And then each card also has 3 rows. And so as you look at your cards, you're trying to determine what advantage you can get over these cards when you line them up. I'm really excited about this mechanic. It takes that whole deck building where you're going to go and you're going to buy cards, you're going to add them to your tableau, but still you're going to draw 4 at a time and then try to match those up. And you're going to try to get resources, you're trying to get points, you're trying to get batteries, all this stuff to advance your tribe's collective intelligence and become the winner. This has brought a whole new level to the deck building mechanic, which excites me. I love deck building, and this is going to be even better. This game isn't quite out yet, but it does have an implementation on BGA. I haven't checked it out. I very much want to.
But maybe we should soon.
And as Doug, as we're talking, and we're both kind of interest peaked here, maybe we'll be starting that game pretty soon.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. So I wanted to talk about a couple of new game announcements that I have real mixed feelings about. And I'm going to be just a little bit negative here, and I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but I have to get some stuff off my chest. Okay. So the first one I wanted to talk about was Deadpool. Okay. So this is the new character that has been announced by Fantasy Flight Games for Marvel Champions, the card game. I love Marvel Champions. Fantastic game. I play it all the time. I usually play it solo. I think it's a wonderful system. I always look forward to the characters. I look forward to seeing what new things are going to do with these characters. They announced Deadpool and they got the flavor spot on. Right. It has all of the right little kind of jokes and little subtle things. And they've done some added little art on the cards to make them feel very much like a Deadpool deck. Now, that said, mechanically, what he does is he plays with the threat acceleration mechanic in the game. So he does better when you put acceleration tokens on the scheme, the villain scheme for the game. And I, definitely not going to go into like a rules teacher, try to explain exactly what that means. But basically, the villain can win by either physically defeating the heroes or by scheming, right? They have a master scheme, this thing they're trying to accomplish. And if they accomplish that,
their thing.
Yep.
Scheme.
Yep. And if they do that, they win. So when those acceleration tokens come up, that means that threat is put on their scheme really, really fast. In fact, what this means is, and people who play Marvel Champions, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It essentially means that you will completely scheme out during the villain phase with almost nothing you can even do about it to try to remove threat or anything like that, because he becomes powerful by adding acceleration tokens to that scheme. And so then when the villain gets to activate, he's just going to throw a ton of threat onto his scheme and the game's done. And so now not all of the villain scenarios are set up that way. There's some that he'll work really well with. However, what it means is that you now have to kind of pick and choose what villain you play against Deadpool, because if you want Deadpool to do well or even really stand a chance, you've got to pick a villain that actually has like a high threat threshold. And that bothers me. I wish that they had done just a little bit better job mechanically with this. And maybe when it comes out, it'll just be amazing and it'll change my mind and all that. But I was a little disappointed. But the character's been announced. If you're into that flavor, I think they've nailed it. But mechanically, I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
Yeah, Deadpool is kind of an interesting character in the whole Marvel universe.
Yeah,
and even in the Marvel movies, he has his whole twist, the whole breaking the fourth wall.
Yep. And that's exactly what they do with these cards. It has him breaking the fourth wall constantly. That's kind of his thing. I'm not a big Deadpool fan personally, like just, as a character goes, but I'm always looking forward to new twists on characters for this game. And this one doesn't look like it's going to do things that I find enjoyable. So yeah. I'm a little down on it right now, but I hope that it'll change my mind when it comes out.
Hopefully.
Okay, and then I wanted to get your take on this, Nathan, because this is another one I've got to get off my chest just a little bit. They announced a new expansion for Dune Imperium Uprising. And Dune Imperium is a game that we both love.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So when you say, hey, Dune Imperium's getting another expansion, it's like, sweet, I'm in.
Big asterisks on this, though.
Yeah, for sure. Have you read this? Have you been?
Yep. So it means I got to go buy another base copy? Is that what it?
No, it doesn't mean you have to go buy another base copy. Well, except maybe.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because that right there is the question, because this is not meant to just be thrown into your Dune Imperium.
Nope.
This is meant to replace the base game of Dune Imperium. And you can still add Rise of Ix and Immortality as expansions to this. And I'm going to be honest, this looks like it does some incredible things, right? Like the Fremen can ride the great sandworms, and you've got, these mechanisms and the way they've kind of evolved the battle system that look really intriguing to me. We don't have a lot of details, but what has been revealed looks really fun and really intriguing. The issue is that there are some components of this game that you can shuffle in and work into your base game, Dune Imperium. And there are cards and things from Dune Imperium that you can take and shuffle into this, which creates a storage and organization nightmare, in my opinion. I can't stand that, which goes back to your question, right? So do you just buy an extra copy so that you can mix in willy-nilly or put in and kind of leave permanently with this? Or how does that all work? I hate it.
Yeah, it's
my
frustrating.
OCD brain just hates this.
And I Race for the Galaxy had the same thing, where you had expansions that worked great that you would just add in. They're great new content. And then you had other expansions that were, if you don't have these, use these. And so somebody who has them all, it's like, okay, I went and bought a second base copy so that I could add these new expansions to that, so that I had two experiences that I could have with each one. And then it gets all confusing of what can go together, what can't go together. I don't know. It drives me a little bit nuts as well. I mean, it could be exceptional, right? But then at the same point, why don't you just make version 2? I don't know.
Yeah, or just make this fully compatible.
Yeah.
Replace the board. Well, that's easy, right? You can do that, piece of cake, if you need to do some stuff like that. But yeah, just make it fully compatible with the base game. I don't know. Again, maybe it'll change my mind when it comes out. I definitely want to try it because it does look really good. But just from an organization and trying to keep all the components square standpoint, this just, it makes my brain hurt just a little bit.
Yeah. It makes me a little bit frustrated too. Yeah, I saw that, and I don't like when they do that. But like you said, it could be exceptional. One that I am very interested in that is coming out soon is Kutna Hora, the City of Gold. This is a historic city building Euro game, 2 to 4 players. It's all about juggling the dynamic economy of the game. In each round, players are going to select actions from the hands. You have double-sided cards, so you can, which I really like this mechanic when a game, you have one card and you can use the top half of it, or you can rotate it 180 degrees and use the bottom half of it. And I like it when a game multi-purposes those
multi-purpose cards. Fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
And so then it has the whole asymmetric nature. Each player's guilds are going to make it each round different and each play different. The replayability is kind of sparking all my pistons on there. So you want to gain influence by directing guilds and contributing to the city's prosperity through mining, smelting, building, food, entertainment, and more. You're going to acquire and construct guild-aligned buildings that provide benefits and synergies that thematically tie into the famous Czech city's historic economic development. This is by Czech Games, so fitting that they use a Czech city. Experience a dynamic, real-life supply and demand economy, and the whole way that it manages that has a couple of little slider bars that you're going to go back and forth to simulate that economy and that supply and demand mechanism in there. You're going to collectively work in towards building the majestic St. Barbara's Cathedral, earning perks, and with each milestone you complete. This is a very heavy Euro game, so if you're not into the Euro games, this is maybe one to avoid. This is one that I think Dave is going to love, and Richie will probably love. I'm very interested in it. I don't know if I'm interested enough to buy it, because it might be one that I get very frustrated playing with Dave and Richie, but I am very much looking forward to playing it at least once, and that's Kutna Hora, the City of Silver.
Yeah, and it says here 3.33 complexity rating, so not super heavy, but not light.
Not light, for sure, yeah.
That's great. I bet you're right. Dave and Richie probably both really like that one a lot. Okay, so my list is long, and I won't spend a lot of time on some of these. I did want to make a quick note of a little game called Nocturne that was announced. The art is what really grabbed me in this one. So Nocturne, it's sort of marketed as a puzzly spatial bidding and set collection game of sly mystics set in a whimsical moonlit forest, illustrated by Beth Sobel. So if you love Beth Sobel's art, like I do, like I think most of us do, this is maybe one to put on your radar. Also announced is a new game from Reiner Knizia. This game has players participating in a hot air balloon festival. And basically, you're going to place your balloons so that they get the most attention from onlookers as possible. And that attention, of course, will be measured by victory points because, duh, it's a board game. and it looks really good. The cover art is very good. If you look at the components, it looks very much like a Reiner Knizia game.
Yeah,
so
yeah, looking at it, it very much does.
Yep. So if you're into Reiner Knizia games, this is definitely one to put on your radar. This is the new Reiner Knizia hotness.
That does look interesting.
Also, I'll just make a quick mention that if you are a War of the Ring fan, you are definitely getting some love coming up. They've announced War of the Ring, Kings of Middle-earth. So this is an expansion for the War of the Ring, which has been out for quite some time. And I don't think has seen new content for a while. This is a new expansion that has been some time in the works. And so that's something I think be pretty excited about. The War of the Ring, the card game, is getting its second expansion. And I feel like this one just barely is becoming available. And they're already announcing a second expansion for it. So this is Fire and Swords. So this one must be doing pretty well because they're cranking out content. So if you love War of the Ring, you love Lord of the Rings, definitely some love there. I also wanted to make a really quick mention of a new game announcement by Darrington Press. So this is the kind of board game side of Critical Role. If you're familiar with the RPG, the Dungeons and Dragons group Critical Role, this is their board game publishing arm. This is a game called Queen by Midnight. And this one really did capture my attention. Basically, the way that this reads is, the Midnight Queen is dead. As her kingdom weeps, the queen's dying command was to invoke the rule by midnight, a trial of combat and guile, where the princesses of the 12 lands meet in secret to battle and scheme against one another. At the stroke of midnight, the most powerful princess left standing will be crowned the new Midnight Queen. So this is kind of a battle royale game, and I love it because this is not your Disney princesses. Right. This,
very much not.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor and go look at the art for this. You've got like one princess who's like covered in all these thorny vines. You've got one that's like a mad scientist, another that's like a thief. There's a barbarian princess, kind of like a conqueror, you know, like sort of Genghis Khan type conqueror. And then one that looks like she could be from Frozen if Elsa was like a warlord. And so this looks like a really fun take on kind of that classic Disney princess, the princess vibe, but takes it in much more of sort of a grim and dark direction. and it seemed really intriguing to me. So Queen by Midnight, definitely something that if that sounds intriguing, you should put on your radar.
Yeah, and it also is a deck builder game, so going on the list for me, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then one last one that I want to mention because I'm really, really excited about this, but it's not going to be out for some time. This is Horror on the Orient Express, the board game.
This looks really cool.
Yeah. So first of all, okay, I'm not making this up. If you're listening to this, do yourself a favor, go look up the cover art for this game. I think the cover for this game is like my new favorite thing in board gaming ever.
Yeah, it looks
It
amazing.
is so awesome.
You got the Eye of Sauron on there almost.
Yeah, it's like that big like Arkham eye right there at the front. I just love it. I think the art looks absolutely amazing. But basically, the Orient Express has drifted into the dream realm, and players are going to cooperatively fend off waves of monsters, deal with an eldritch vampire. There might be hidden cultists among passengers on the train, and ultimately they're going to decide the fate of the Orient Express.
Doug, you should not be on the news episode. You just put so many games on my list.
Yeah, this one looks so good. And here's the thing, a 3D train, right? The roof is missing and one of the walls is a little shorter so you can get your minis in and out. But this has a train that you set up at the table. So you are actually moving up and down the train. This just looks so good. And it's based on the Call of Cthulhu RPG game, which I have not had the opportunity to play myself, but I've listened to several of like the actual play podcasts of it. And it is a really, really great system. I think this is going to be an awesome game. It's not slated to come out till 2025.
Really? That far out?
Yeah. This one's a ways out, which is a bummer, but it's one that I'm going to be watching with a great deal of interest. It's also by Adam Kopinski, who did like Nemesis and Lords of Hellas, Frostpunk, and like a whole ton more. But this will be an absolute must play for me.
Oh yeah, it looks so good.
Yeah, fantastic.
2025. Wow.
Yeah, it's a ways off.
All right, one last one that I want to hit on before we get to crowdfunding is a game, ironically, that was on crowdfunding that I have regrets.
Trailblazers.
Yeah, Trailblazers. Yeah, in Trailblazers, players compete to earn the most points by building biking, hiking, and kayak loops of the matching trail type back to their campsite. So you've created this reserve and you want to put bike trails on there. So you have your bike camp. You want to put kayak trails, kayak paths on there, kayak rivers. What do you call a kayak avenues?
Yeah, kayak path.
Yeah. But anyways,
kayak goes down the river, Nathan.
I know. It's, but
so nature builds that path.
Yeah, nature. So, but anyways, you're trying to do these. So you have these paths are all different, and you have cards that you're going to play. It's a drafting game, so I'm going to start with 8 cards. I'm going to draft 2 of these cards, pass, draw 2 until I have 6 cards. The last 2 cards are going to get discarded, and then I'm going to add these cards to my first campsite, and then the next time I'm going to add an additional campsite, and then I'm add my third campsite and try to get these all to go together. And the great thing is you can stack these cards. You can cover part of a card. You can cover a card completely to make your trails work, all in an effort to try to get your trails back. There's end game scoring. There's mid game scoring, a lot of chaos. So, I mean, this is a game I think Logan will enjoy because you're building those trails, and it kind of gives you, like Lydia, your wife, Doug, kind of gives you that nature feel.
Yeah.
But it adds a little bit of that Logan chaos in there. And this game has me a little intrigued. I'm very excited about it. It's 1 to 8 players, lasts about 30 minutes.
That's awesome. Actually, having a higher player count like that and being able to be kind of wrapped up in 30, probably a little longer because those times are always off.
Actually, you're all playing on your own board. So simultaneous play, I believe. So
still,
that
but
30 should stick.
sure. I get it. Yeah. But I'm skeptical.
Yeah, a wise skepticality. Is that a word? It is now.
It is now. Absolutely. No, this looks really interesting. So is it time to go hit eBay for an overpriced after Kickstarter version?
It might be. It's see if I can find something or some of those sites out there that buy them in bulk so they can resell them. The Kickstarter version just comes with comes with several versions. There's a travel version. There's an upgraded waterproof version so that you can take on camping trips with you. But I'm hoping the base game will be enough as long as there is that content that is available. But Trailblazers looks pretty cool. I wish I would have backed it, but now I'm on the hunt for it. So should be coming out for a release soon for a street copy.
Very cool. Well, those are some of the games that have caught our eye in terms of upcoming releases, and some of those, that are out, I think soon, some that should be hitting the shelves, very soon, if not out now. Lots and lots of amazing gaming goodness coming our way that it just doesn't seem like good games ever stop hitting the shelf. I feel like we're in a real golden age of board games.
Yeah, it's not 1966. We've advanced well beyond, hey, Pa, there's a goat on the roof, to games like Trailblazers or Horror on the Orient Express, the board game. That game just looks so cool. I'm way excited now.
For real, right? All right. Well, hey, let's hit some crowdfunding here just really quick. Again, crowdfunding is difficult because oftentimes, our record schedule, sometimes we're way ahead, sometimes we're way behind. We try to do these news episodes so that they're relevant and fresh. We record, we get them out as soon as we can. But still, if you're talking about stuff that's running right now, by the time people listen to it, it's like, well, it's over, and maybe you can look for a late pledge or something like that.
Right.
So with crowdfunding, I'm really trying to focus on stuff that's coming down the road, just stuff to go hit the follow button on, stuff that looks intriguing. You're not going to miss it. It's not running right now. So no rush on that, but things that have just kind of caught my eye. First, over on GameFound, I was really intrigued by this little game called Dreamscape. So this is a solo RPG. And other than that, know almost nothing about it. The little tiny synopsis says, your dreaming mind has been trapped within a nightmare, shattered into fragments by the great Cthulhu. To escape, wake up and win. You must explore the dreamlands, uncover and survive many sinister plots, and unite your missing fragments once more, or else remain trapped forever in a cage within your own mind. So this idea of being trapped in your own mind, I think is kind of cool. But the fact that they've taken that and they're like, okay, well, we're going to turn this into a solo RPG. That doesn't sound very fun. And yet this looks really cool.
It looks really cool. I mean, just the box cover alone, you have kind of that Cthulhu
his red eyes staring you down. Yeah, it does look pretty cool. Very good art that's gone into this. So I'm just intrigued. I have no idea if this is something that's going to be good or not, but it's definitely something to put on the radar if that sounds interesting. The other one on GameFound that I wanted to make mention of really quick, there's an upcoming campaign for a game called Aberration. And this one just caught my eye because it looks like the kind of game that Meeple Nation would play. It's got that, it's very much a fantasy dungeon crawl cooperative type experience.
All you got to do is tell Andy about this one, and
that's kind of my goal. Yeah. This isn't one I'll back. I'll just mention it to Andy and then I'll let him back it.
Yeah. It has Andy's name written all over it.
This one will be launching in September, so that's coming up here pretty quick. It's a cooperative tower defense board game of horror and survival. Can you and your companions fight all that awaits in the darkness? So this idea that it kind of has like that dungeon crawl kind of feel to it, but that it's more of a tower defense style game is really what caught my eye on this one in particular.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's got totes some asymmetric player powers, bag building, cooperative worker placement. All those things sound pretty cool. Aberrations lurk deep within the forest, twisted, vile, and hungering. As shadows consume the village, you must defend your only safe haven. Can you survive the night? Rally the villagers and fortify your defenses, gather equipment, light fires, and prepare for the encroaching darkness. Yeah, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it.
And a 3-headed goose. Who doesn't want a 3-headed goose with razor-sharp teeth?
So that one looked really intriguing to me. Now, one of the things that Kickstarter does not do as well is do like sort of pre-launch stuff. And I've gone off on this before. I actually really like it when I can just kind of stumble across a good game and back it. And then, ideally it would already be on the shelf and I could just pick it up and it would be in my hands that day. But that isn't how Kickstarter and crowdfunding works. So I like that GameFound kind of gives you time to sort of, prepare for some of these campaigns. Kickstarter doesn't do quite the same thing. I mean, it's kind of in there, but it's buried and it's a little harder to get to. I did want to make mention of 2 games. These ones actually are running, and by the time this podcast drops, I think the campaigns are going to be basically done. But you can jump on that late pledge. So after I said I try to find games that don't do this, I'm talking about games that do exactly that. But I thought these were just too cool to not mention. But go check out Mistwind, which just looks like such a thematically incredible game. The picture that caught my eye right off the bat, you've got a flying whale with a ship on the back. The description says, Mistwind is a strategic game of building networks and meeting the demands of each nation. Players will manage their action disc placements, collect resources to build outposts or train transport whales. I'll just repeat that. Gather and deliver cargo to fulfill capital demands and complete networking contracts with neighboring nations in an effort to become the most trusted trader in Mistwind. That just seems really intriguing to me.
Who doesn't like flying whales?
Yeah.
With feathers.
Yeah. And the components, the art, everything on this, it looks really solid. This seems like the kind of game that I would really enjoy and one that I think would be successful getting to the table.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then the very last one I'll make mention of here, go and check out Bear Mountain Camping Adventure, A Race to the Top. So that is quite the mouthful for a board game, but this is running on Kickstarter. And again, kind of going back to that sort of nature theme, camping, getting outdoors. That's very much the vein that this game exists in, and just looks really cool. So players are trying to be the first to get to Bear Mountain campground so they can get the coveted best spot. But it looks really great. It's got kind of the same art style as Parks. It has that sort of the USA Parks art style that they did all those posters with. And it just looks like really fun. Again, you've got kind of multi-use cards, really great components, and just a fun-looking little family weight game.
Oh, and that all-in deluxe edition looks pretty cool. Looks like it has 3 expansions, upgraded pieces. I'm going to close my eyes right now, Doug.
Well,
I'm going to look away.
One of us might already have backed it, so
I'm glad. I think maybe 2 of us might back it.
One is all we need, Nathan. Stay strong, brother.
Is it?
Stay strong. No, it does get difficult when we start looking at these Kickstarter games not to want to hit the pledge button on all of them.
Yes, yeah, it does. Wow, that is a lot of news, Doug.
Yeah, I think this episode still went long.
Even with just the 2 of us.
Even with just the 2 of us. So we did not have any lack of things to talk about. But lots of really great stuff on the horizon. And hopefully that got you as excited as we are about some of these games coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of fun games and a lot of stuff to pick up.
I think that's going to put a wrap on this episode. So until next time,
adventure awaits you as you discover new and exciting games to put on your game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com patreon.com/Meeple_Nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.